So I'll start off with the stakeholders. So we have the GC CAS, the owner Gold Coast, and the sub. I chose the mechanical sub, but it stands for all the subs we have on the field. And then our persona would be our scheduler, our superintendent, our senior PM, the owner, and the subs. Then our system of record would be we use Primavera and Procore. And then for the document of records, we have the schedule, but the schedule is three different forms because we have the look ahead schedule, we have the original schedule that we receive, and then we have the schedule that keeps being updated. So I'll start off with here. We have Charlie that creates the schedule in Primavera, and then he uploads it to Ignite. And then from Ignite, he sends an attachment to both the senior PM and the superintendent. And then the PM will send that file, the PDF, to the owner and the sub. And so Frank would be like the owner of the subcontracting company. And then I have Kevin over here who would be the laborer. And the superintendent normally will change this PDF attachment he gets from Ignite and to a look ahead schedule so that the laborer would be able to be just like not be overwhelmed with information because it's pretty much what they tend to need is like a 2 week or 3 to 4 week look ahead. And in the current state, I'd say that we have a lot of redundancy because Charlie would send it to both Jason and Dave. And then over here, I'd say that Bruce, the owner, and Frank would have a blind spot because they're not as informed per se whenever every time the schedule gets updated. Basically, they become more aware of what's going on whenever an OAC happens or a subcontractor meeting, which may not be as helpful because it's not happening as often. And then in the current, well, in the future state, I have Charlie, like the current state. Charlie would create it in Primavera, and then have it in Ignite, and then from there he'd push it over to Dave and Jason. But the cool thing about this side is that it's really just a document of record. So they would just leave it in Ignite for their own storage purposes. But then Charlie would also send over the schedule in Procore. And anytime Charlie updates it, everybody would get it. That's in Procore. And Dave, the super, can still create his look ahead schedule and still show the look aheads, but the field worker would also have access to any real-time changes in Procore. And I'd say one of the potential gains is that it's more synchronized so that anything that's going on happens simultaneously. There is reduction in schedule file logging for the PM, the super. So it's like they have less revision changes they have to chase for the schedule. And Procore also has a pretty cool tool where you're able to see the schedule in different formats besides just the Gantt chart, which leads me into another tool that the super can use. He can keep a Draper schedule. We looked into this as a format, just well, we call it art because it pretty much just shows everything of the original schedule, and you could just drop a pin or like a hairline from the top to the bottom, and you could see where you ought to be, what form, reach or pour, what level, and what state you can look at. It has its shortcomings because you can't update it in the way you can in P6, but it's a good tool so that when field laborers come in, they, especially in the subcontractor meetings, they can see what's going on. And I'll jump into my future. And the only reason I put this in here is because I looked into BIM scheduling, and I thought it'd be a pretty cool tool to have. However, I ran into a lot of problems when I was asking about that. So just like the last thing I just showed, where you have Charlie creating the P6 and then the Ignite, but then you have, it's kind of redundant because you have, now you added a VDC manager, and you have access to Procore, just like the last one where you sends the updated schedule into Procore. But now when you're incorporating BIM into it, you have a lot of difficulty to file transfer, and it creates lag because he has to basically like transfer the file. And basically like what Weston was saying, I think it'd be a great tool to have in the future, so that you can see exactly what's going on. And we currently do have a BIM model for the project we're working on, but we use it mostly for coordination so that subcontractors can see what problems or errors you might run into. So some of the shared pains would be information overload. The document travels through several mediums, and lag in time schedules updated and received. And some of the shared gains that integrating Procore into our scheduling is the process becomes more synchronized. There is more variety in display for the complex information, and the super and the PM don't need to chase files as much.
Awesome.
And yeah, I thank you guys for the opportunity as well.
Great. Thank you so much. Round of applause, Chisler. Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting how many of our topics ended up finding their way around this sort of integrating BIM and schedule and cost and all this stuff. It's a large nut to crack for the industry. So
that story.